if you cannot tell by the title of the video, we are going to be talking about everything going on in Texas that is causing a domino effect in other states. This is going to be your trigger warning. We are obviously going to be talking about abortion. We are going to be discussing a little bit about religion. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but still, as well as assault and gender identity. So if in any way, shape, or form that that is a trigger for you guys, I do not want to put your guys' mental health at risk. If you would like to watch any of my videos, you can watch any other ones other than this one. You are not obligated to give me any moment of your time. I just really wanted to do this video. And again, my channel, all of my channels are not political channels. However, I needed to say this. I needed to at least say something. So, yeah, that's your warning. You have like a minute or two. I'll see if I can ramble on a little bit longer for it to reach maybe a minute and a half for you guys to be able to switch to a different video, turn me off, just whatever, because I don't want to put your guys' mental health in jeopardy. And I'm so sorry that I have taken so long to speak out about this. And it is no excuse for us to just now be joining the fight that people have been dealing with for decades now. Because people of color, natives, Black, Asian, they have been dealing with this sort of discrimination when it comes to birth control and sex ed and everything that goes in with pregnancy or goes in with possible child rearing, that we have all turned a blind eye to. Time's up. So, on with the video. I also want to preface this by saying that when I talk about when I discuss the religious aspect of it, which we'll be going into here in just a moment, in no way am I shaming people for their religion. I'm shaming the people who are pushing their religious ideals onto other people to fit their narrative because they want everyone to do what they say and what they do. It is in no way me trying to be against your religion or talk shit about it. There's just we only hear the negative side of everything. So the fact of the matter is that if you are shown nothing but the negative, it makes you it makes your view of all people like that twisted. Like, my best friend is a Christian, and I just became a member of the Satanic Temple last night. So, yeah, I know my best friend is not like that, and she knows that she would never push her religion onto me, but still, she does recognize that there are people who are like that. And I know not all Christians are this way, not all people who practice Judaism, who are Buddhist, who are Hindu, who are Islamic. No one like that it defines an entire group of people, but there's just so many who hide behind religion and use it as a shield when they are not listening to their own God's words or their own book. It's as if they don't even read their own book because there's so many different versions, variations, translations and everything that it just gets lost in text. So without further ado, a lot of religions actually have kind of a mixed view. Obviously, a lot of them go for medical issues, if it's medically necessary for the birth giver to have it in order to save their own life. A lot of them are for it, which is actually surprising for me because I think one of them is I read with Islam that they accept it in cases that the birthing person's life is at risk. But I do understand that every person, every individual, every religion, every county, every state, everywhere is going to have different laws for this topic. So it's a lot. But what surprised me when I was looking at it was that Orthodox Judaism, a lot of Jewish practices allow it. So as somebody who has connected the fact that Judaism and Christianity are they go hand in hand. I mean, Jesus was literally, he practiced Judaism, so the fact that people will then argue what goes against God, it goes against Jesus in Christianity when they don't have all the facts right. It's I'm laughing and I'm smiling because it's the stupidity that my brain is trying to comprehend, and it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to make this video just a little bit more lighthearted while talking about a serious issue, because the fact that it's not fun and games. If you restrict somebody else from doing something that is medically necessary because of your religion and you find it offensive, it is your responsibility to deal with that. It is not theirs. Just because I wear my hair a certain way doesn't mean that if someone were to come up to me and say, you need to cover your hair, it's not right for someone to see your hair, does not mean that I then, if they use their religion as an excuse. So like certain, well, that's the thing though, the majority of these religions go hand in hand. So the fact of the matter is that people are just like, oh, but mine's the best. No, mine is. No, mine is. No, mine is. It's just a whole whirlwind argument. You can believe how you want to believe. Just don't shove it onto me. Does that make sense? Like, if I go walking down the street with, like, from where I joined the Satanic Temple, if I have, like, something that says Hail Satan on, and a Christian were to come up to me and say, that's offensive to me, it is not my job to make it to where they are not offended. If I were to go up to somebody who said Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays and said I'm offended by that, it is not my place to tell them I am offended and to force them to fix it. I believe how I want to believe, you can believe how you want to believe. Deal? Deal. By the way, my pages, my channels, I want them to be the little happy corner of the internet, but I also understand that there are certain things I need to speak out on, and I know I did not do a very good job of that last year, so I am going to do my best to do better this year, and I'm sorry I'm just now starting. So, I wrote down everything for different states, if they are states with trigger laws or not. I have a list here on my dry erase board because I was running out of paper. So, in the US as a whole, abortions are legal. However, each state has their own regulations, limitations for the use of abortion, and can create what is considered trigger laws. Now, these trigger laws are pre-Roe bans on abortion that would make abortion illegal in the state if Roe versus Wade was overturned, i.e. Texas. Before I get more into other states and their views on abortion, I do want to explain really quick my reasoning for joining the Satanic Temple over other religions is the fact that it's not necessarily a religion. It's more or less just like, I'm a person, I have a right to my own body. It's more of a community who want to help those who are down on their luck. Less about people who are following, and I'm not trying to sound insensitive, I'm trying to make people laugh when I say this. We're not following a Sky Daddy and his son. That is a liberal that people want to argue about. People on the conservative side want to argue that Jesus was not a liberal. And the same people who are like, well, like, I will argue that it's pro-choice, but then they will do the argument that, like, oh, but what about COVID? COVID can spread to other people and it can kill them, but it has a 99% survival rate. We don't know the consequences of that survival, so saying my body, my choice when it comes to a mask, but not my body, my choice when it comes to whether or not I can allow something that cannot survive on its own to, okay, I'm gonna use the parasitic reasoning for it, and I'm so sorry if this offends somebody. Before that can survive on its own, it's a parasite. If it is not wanted, it is considered a parasite. Those of us who can get pregnant are considered a host body now by the conservative side of politics. So the fact that people will argue my body, my choice with a virus that killed over 600,000 plus people, but will then argue that a fetus that will be carried for 9 months and then not give a fuck about it after it's been born are the ones that are pissing me off. It is not the people who are actively trying to do better. In my opinion, if you are somebody who is pro-life, then you are vegan, you are against the death penalty, you will open your home to people who need it, you will help the homeless, you will help people in foster care, children in foster care, you will do anything in your power to make sure that those people are safe, and if an abortion is medically necessary to save someone's life, because there is a 50, after, 5.5 months, anytime before then, the fetus cannot survive outside of the womb on its own. The percentage of it being able to do that is extremely low. At 5.5 months, it's only a 50% chance that that fetus can survive outside of the womb in an incubator. So, if you are that pro-life, then wouldn't you want to make abortions safer and actually talk more about STDs and HPV and any sort of other way that somebody can get hurt or sick? You would want to talk about any issues that women face with our uteruses, or people face with our uteruses, I'm sorry, because it's not subject to only one outcome. It's not like you get pregnant and you're perfectly fine. No, there are complications with that development. There's complications with the birth. I went to school with somebody who flatlined, or not went to school with someone. I went to school with their daughter, and I worked with the mom up in the office. And I went to church with them for the longest time because I was raised Christian until I was like 6 years old. So, she had flatlined while she was having a C-section, as well as her daughter at the time, because her daughter was still attached to her. So she was in distress, the mother was in distress, and the amount of people who just do not understand the way it works is scary, because then these people who do not have a medical degree, who have never stepped foot in an OBGYN office or anything like that, will then say that this is murder, this is illegal. When a lot of, going back to the religious aspect of it, because they will always argue, well, it's against God or anything like that, but then they will say, if a child dies, the 600,000 plus people who are dead from COVID, I don't know how many times people who will not wear a mask but are pushing the Christian agenda will then go, but it's God's will. I do not understand it, because if okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting pissed. For those who argue that they won't seek any sort of medical treatment or anything like that, they won't allow their daughters to be put on birth control or anything like that, pushing the religious agenda, but will then say, this is just God's will, God has a set path for us and everything like that. Why would that God put people on this earth, the planet he created, and had them go on a certain path in life, like learning about evolution, learning about how the female body works, how the male body works, sex education, gender education, anything like that, putting them in the medical field to save lives of his children, to then say, oh, you sought medical attention for something that could kill you, you're going to hell. Doesn't sound like a very merciful God, in my opinion. And again, this is only for the people who will shout that bullshit. It is not aimed towards all Christians. It is not aimed towards anybody who, any people who practice any other religion. I cannot wrap my head around the bullshit. And that's all it is. It's utter bullshit. Alright, so the states that have restrictions, weak restrictions, and those that are trigger states, you might as well say. Alabama does have 22-week restriction, but at the same time that it also has trigger laws. So let me look for Alabama here, because I got it pulled up here. Also, if you are curious about looking I would look into it for other countries as well, because I know that's what a lot of people are going to argue. Well, if you don't like the United States, then you can leave. Trust us, we're fucking trying. Sweet home Alabama. There are also a lot of states that don't have, I think Alabama is one of them, the same as Texas, that if it comes down to, it's somebody who has been assaulted, somebody who has been a victim of incest, or anything like that, illegal. It's a fucking lot of them, and I should have wrote down those too. Okay, this is also prior to Roe v. Wade. Legal in cases of the R word, legal in cases of danger to women's health, legal in cases of danger to women's health, R word, incest, or likely a damaged fetus, and legal upon request. So, I'm going to see if I can save this so I can put it in my editing. Hopefully I can. If not, I will copy the URL and I will put it in the description for you to look at that chart if you guys are curious. And just so you know, I did get this off of Wikipedia, but and nothing else was giving me a straight answer but Wikipedia, so I'm doing my best. Again, this is not my forte. So Alabama is definitely one of those states that if it comes to R word or danger to women's health or incest or anything like that, it's against it. It seems like so is Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, a lot of states. So, Jesus. And like I said, for this chart, it is pre-Roe v. Wade. I have not found one for everything prior to Roe v. Wade, and with everything in discussion right now, so obviously it probably looks a little bit different. But Alaska is one of the states that have no restrictions, and it is legal all the way around. A lot of them also say that you need counseling or anything like that before or after. There's a waiting period and all this kind of stuff. Before I get to it, before I forget, I do not agree with the heartbeat bill. Now, the reason I don't agree with the heartbeat bill is because we have machines that can keep your heart and lungs working, but you are classified as brain dead. Now, in no way am I saying somebody who is in a coma, who does not show brain activity, should have the plug pulled on them. I'm not saying that. I'm meaning that if they are considered in a vegetative state, and there is a higher percentage that they won't make it out of there, why do they get the plug pulled on them? Is it because they've been contributing to society? I don't understand it, because you can have a heartbeat but still technically not be alive. Does that make sense? I understand how insensitive that sounds, and in no way am I trying to be an asshole. Those are just my two correlations right now. That's the way I'm understanding it. And to the people who are like, well, if you make them legal, people are just going to use them as birth control. My ex said that a lot. I do not fucking understand this. It is a medical procedure that is traumatic. Having a child in general is a traumatic experience. Doing a birth at the hospital is a traumatic experience. There are so many things that go wrong. Your body goes through an absolute hormonal shift when it comes to it. Your body essentially fucks itself over. And people are then going to argue that, well, you chose to do that. A lot of people haven't chose to do it. I know a lot of my siblings were all surprises. My siblings were not planned. I think I was the only one out of 4 kids that was planned. And I know that was probably the same excuse for my parents, siblings, and my grandparents, and all of them. Every single one of them, I do not think they were planned. Nobody sat down and had an adult conversation about it. And people who say, well, you just want to talk about everything now, piss me off, because we have to have this fucking conversation. It's not like you're going to the grocery store and picking up a watermelon. This is an actual living, breathing human being that could possibly not actually make it. And everybody's situation is different. Some people can't afford it. And before somebody says, well, why not just go on birth control? Why not just use a condom? Why not just get an IUD or anything like that? Those are not 100% effective, even when used together. So the heartbeat bill is bullshit, because we are not taught proper sex ed and we don't know about it until we get out in the real world. Okay, Arizona says it depends on if it can survive outside of the womb or not. It's a lot of states have viability, so that is also just depending on if it's going to hurt the person carrying the fetus, if it's going to if it's so far along that it can survive without it, if there's something medically wrong, if it's not fixable, but it does have trigger laws. Same with Arkansas. Theirs is 22 weeks. They also have trigger laws. California is viability. Colorado has no restrictions. Connecticut, viability. Delaware, viability. Florida, 24 weeks. To be completely honest, that surprised me. And it also does not have any, restrictions. It doesn't have any trigger laws. Georgia, one article on here said 22 weeks. Another said prohibited, no exceptions. But like I said, it's different from state, it's different from city, it's different by county, it's different by the phase of the damn moon. There's no solid yes or no. Technically, it's not illegal in any other state at the moment other than Texas. And I mean completely illegal, like people are making chat rooms and everything to start turning people in who get it, and fining people and charging people and being arrested for doing that. I think there was an 11-year-old girl that just gave birth and she passed away from it because she had been assaulted by a family member. I don't remember what one exactly, for years, and she wound up pregnant and she died in childbirth. So that's the shit that also pisses me off. The people, I don't know if I can carry a child for full term. I've never been to an OBGYN because I can't fucking afford it. So the fact that I don't know what could possibly go wrong with me were I to get pregnant, not by choice, and even by choice, I can't pay for it. Well, you should have thought about that. You should have kept your legs closed. Then don't fucking touch me. Do not touch me. Leave us alone. What about the victims of assault? What about the victims of incest? What about people who do not have a choice? I don't understand other people's way of thinking. Hawaii, viability. Idaho, viability, but also trigger laws. Illinois, viability. Indiana, 20 weeks. Iowa, 20 weeks. Kansas, 20 weeks. Kentucky, 22 with trigger laws. Louisiana is 20 with trigger laws. Maine, Maryland, and Minnesota are all viability, as well as Michigan, but Michigan also has trigger laws. Massachusetts limit is 24 weeks. Mississippi, 20 weeks with a trigger. Missouri, viability with a trigger. Montana, viability. Nebraska, 20. Nevada, 24. New Hampshire has no laws for it. New Jersey doesn't, nor does New Mexico. New York is viability depending on if it can survive outside the womb and whatnot, or about 24 weeks. North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, West Virginia, and Wisconsin are all 20 weeks. Ohio is viability, and that's the state that I'm in. Oregon does not have any restrictions. Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania and Rhode Island are 24 weeks. Tennessee is a viability. Texas, of course, has the fucking heartbeat bill, which is 6 weeks, which, like I said, doesn't fucking make any sense. Utah, viability. Vermont has no restrictions. Virginia is 25 weeks. Washington, viability, and Wyoming, viability. So it's all up to your state. It is all up to your Congress people. It's all up for fucking debate, and something like this should not be up for debate, because if one person who has the eggplant can get somebody who has the female parts pregnant, they can get one person with an eggplant can get 90 women or people who have a uterus pregnant and have 90 children or more, because sometimes they multiply. And yet there's nothing for those people. And before somebody says, well, what about I am going to have to take you to court so I actually get to see that child. I'm going to have to pay child support. You can abolish your parental rights. If you abolish your parental rights while someone is pregnant and their state has the no limitations and they are able to go and get an abortion with no questions asked, I guarantee you they will do it. If they cannot afford that child, if they cannot afford to give it a loving, caring home like it deserves. If people were actually taught the consequences, if there were actual consequences for people who force themselves on each other, then there probably wouldn't be as big of an issue as there is now. And people who just get so offended by others not following their God, even though this is a Christian nation, even though there should be a separation of church and state. That's literally what I think it's the First Amendment, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff. Like, it goes against our constitutional rights that you like to bitch about when it comes to wearing a piece of cloth over your face that could have prevented at least half of the 600,000 plus people who are dead in the ground thanks to COVID and your ignorance. Your religion, your views have no place in my uterus. That is all I have to say about this. If I have missed anything, please feel free to educate me respectfully in the comments. If I see anybody calling each other names or anything like that, you will be immediately reported and blocked. This is not a fucking argument. My body, my choice. No uterus, no opinion, to a certain extent. If you are somebody who has went through a transition and you have had a uterus in the past and you still support the fact that people have a right to do whatever the fuck they want with their own uterus, then I hope you also support the fact that the people who don't and then will argue that it's my body, my choice, should also suffer the consequences. And those who will say, well, what about vasectomies? They're reversible to a certain extent. Yes. And I do also agree with that, but it's also agreeing with the fact that people will argue pro-life, but then ignore somebody who's homeless, ignore a child who's been kicked out on the street because they're gay. These people are not pro-choice, they're just anti-abortion. So, I hope you guys have a good day. I am so sorry for my attitude in this video. This just really, really pissed me off in a lot of different ways. So, drink your water, take your medication. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please don't forget, wear your mask, sanitize, wash your hands, go get vaccinated. I know booster shots will probably be available by probably as early as probably around Christmas. So remember, we are still in the middle of a panorama, so please, please, please look out for yourselves and each other, and I hope you guys have a better day than I am.